sister podcast. I am so excited for today's conversation. Originally, I was going to have Chase join in, my husband, to talk about this topic, but he's not quite to the point of wanting to be on the podcast yet. So maybe we can send him some encouraging comments or messages and we can get him on the podcast. So this episode is some tips that I've learned about making marriage intentional again. We've been married for almost 4 years. And we've learned a lot on how incredibly important it is to be intentional with not just marriage, but our relationship with each other. So before we dive in, I am so excited to share my favorite part about being married. And it's probably not what you think, but my favorite part about being married is having someone that you just care about more than anything. That when you picture life without that person, you just can't. And I often get scared of that kind of love. I get scared of how serious that is. But I'm so thankful that I've chosen the person I've chosen. And so I just wanted to share that little fun thing before we dive in. But I'm going to share 3 tips for how we've been bringing intentionality back into marriage. I don't want to say we ever lost it, but it's definitely something that you have to practice and practice well. So tip number 1 is a weekly date night. And when I share that we choose one night a week to go on a date, people call me crazy. And I want to reiterate, it's not always a fancy dinner out. It's not always going to the movies. It's not always sometimes it's just staying home and being with each other and focusing on each other. And a lot of people assume that you have to give your undivided attention all the time to someone in marriage, but I'm sorry, but your attention gets taken by so many other things that it's really important to remind that person, hey, I see you. I love you. We're in this together. We're figuring this out together. And I have quality time as one of my highest love languages, and spending a distraction-free, phones away time with Chase is so important to me. And I wanted to share some ideas for some date nights that you guys can do. Super simple. Some of them, like I said, are at home. Some of them are out and about. And this is just some fun things that we have enjoyed, and I hope you guys do as well. So first being an in-home make your own pizza night. Now, if you have kids, this could also be something where you spend time with them and they come in and they help you make the pizza, and then you put them down for a movie with their pizza, and you and your husband are sitting at the dining room table and you talk and you set aside that time to where they're occupied and you are committed to talking to one another. But date night doesn't always have to be an expensive outing. It can be as special as making pizza at home and turning on Italian music and really getting into the theme of it. Cooking together is such a fun thing to do, and it really helps create a fun vibe. And I really love this. We have learned to make homemade pizza dough. We really love our in-home pizza nights. And I'm trying to talk Chase into getting a pizza oven. So maybe we can make that work. But a night out on the town, maybe you want to get out, maybe you want to go explore. We love food. We are foodies through and through. And whenever we can, we budget at least 2 nights out a month. So this says, okay, out of the 4 weeks in the month, we are at least going out for 2 of them. If we can go out weekly, then great. But twice a week is our attainable goal that we budget for. We pick restaurants that we want to try, or sometimes we revisit our favorites. It's always fun to experience new things together, but it's also fun to have that one place that you just love going back to. Another favorite of ours is an in-home cozy movie night, the perfect time to go grab snacks and cuddles, which are my 2 favorite things. I love home movie nights because it's just a great way to wind down, and who knows, it could lead to other things. Things to talk about on date night. Plan out your week with one another. Get on the same page. This is a great time to communicate scheduling, budget things that need to get done. Maybe there's something that's been heavy on your heart that you need to share about, sharing what God's been talking with you about, how you've been spending your time with the Lord. This conversation helps alleviate a ton of headaches throughout the week, but also realigns your visions for life together. So those are just some small things. We also did another one a few weeks ago that we tried for the first time, and I think Chase got it off of TikTok, if I'm being honest. But it was, you flip a coin, and whoever it lands on gets to decide if they get an appetizer or dinner or drink or dessert. So the other night we flipped a coin and it landed on me, and it was the drinks turn. So I was like, okay, we're gonna go to Swig, which is a soda shop here in Utah. And we picked out our drinks for the night, and then it flipped and Chase got to pick out the appetizer. So we went to a place that sells carne asada fries, and we did this all drive-through style because we wanted to take it all back home and enjoy it at home. But a lot of you, maybe you want to stay out and away from kids, you can go to sit-down places and enjoy a appetizer or entree that way. So it was a really fun thing that Chase found. And like I said, TikTok, I think, is where he found it. But it was a really cute date night idea. And I would totally suggest that you do it if you're looking for some good options. Tip number 2, express your love for one another. This tip can take some self-evaluation, because how can someone show love to you? Do you enjoy cuddles and hugs? Maybe you'd rather have undivided attention. What about when your spouse does something for you around the house? How does that make you feel? Once you've nailed down how you like to receive love, it is important to evaluate and ask your spouse how they feel loved. And you can also kind of pick up on it when you say a nice thing. Does it actually make them feel good? And you can kind of see how they respond. If you do something for them around the house, does that show up in a bigger way? What are some ways that you can make them feel loved? When they share this with you, start finding the ways that you can show them love in small and big ways. Maybe it is through words of encouragement. So write a small note, leave them a small text. And in a big way, show them you love them by writing a letter to them, a handwritten letter. It can look as simple as completing tasks off their to-do list, or being the one to plan the date. And I know a lot of people assume, oh, the guy should plan the date. But I can tell you, we have flipped on and off where Chase will plan the date or I'll plan the date. And Chase really enjoys when I plan the dates because it's something maybe he wouldn't have thought to do together, or maybe it's something that he didn't think he would necessarily enjoy but actually found some enjoyment in it. But serving your spouse within their love language is an intentional practice that restores intentionality into the relationship. It shows, hey, I love you enough to slow down to think about how you enjoy to be loved, and I'm showing you love in that way. I'm thinking about you in that way. So it just shows I'm intentional about us. I'm intentional about loving you, and it reminds one another that you're there for each other. Tip number 3, probably my favorite one, if I'm being honest, because it's just a part of my personality. Dream and plan together. This form of communication often gets lost once you get married. I mean, when you're dating, all you want to talk about is the future. All you want to talk about is the plans, what you're going to do next, dreaming up life together. But when you're married, it almost feels like something happens where I'm now living in that. And it almost is like that dream switch turns off a little bit. But just like any form of communication, dreaming and setting goals individually and together is essential for the longevity of your marriage. Set aside time to dream. Where do you see yourself in a year, 5 years, 10 years, etc.? Where do you see yourself next week? What goals are you trying to accomplish right now? How can your spouse encourage you in those ways? How can you encourage your spouse in what they're trying to do? One of the hardest things for Chase to receive is encouragement. He hates it when I am like, I am so proud of you. I believe in you. I know you can do this. He hates it. It makes him cringe. And it's from just growing up a different way than I did, where I got just praised and not in like a weird, cocky, spoiled way, like not like that. But I was reminded, you're loved. I'm so proud of you. Keep it up. Keep going. What you do matters. You're going to be a world changer. Those types of things that my parents would tell me stuck with me. And so when I tell Chase these things, he doesn't necessarily know how to respond, but they mean so much. One of the most intentional and practical things that we do is discuss and coordinate our calendars. I'm a very type A person. I love a calendar. I love color coordinating my calendar. Off to my left right now is a long to-do list of stuff that I hope to accomplish today. And Chase is super go with the flow. Right now, he's probably downstairs hanging out with Nala. He's probably getting some chores done. But other than that, super go with the flow. He's probably doing some work as well. Like, it's just, he doesn't sit down and make a list of stuff that he needs to do. He's just like, whatever comes next, I'll attack it, I'll finish it, and then we'll move on. And it's super admirable. But when we first got married, I felt like I was constantly nagging him, asking him what the plans are for the day. Even the week. I often remember my mom saying that I was like this even as a child, wanting to feel secure in what was happening next or what was coming my way. Like, so I could expect it and adapt. I had trouble adapting as a child, but as I've grown up, adapting has grown on me. I've been really good at being flexible and adapting. But as a child, if I didn't know what was going on and I was not being communicated with, I would struggle greatly. And so it's something I hope to be super mindful of with our children, is that if they express those same needs, that I'm mindful of that. And I don't just react, but rather I listen and I understand, because I was them. I was the same way. But we have found what works best for us is on Sunday nights, we sit down and we both go over our schedule for the week. And this will be a super helpful practice when we add kids into the mix, because we'll have to know what the kids' schedule is and what we need to do with them. So we always leave room for change and flexibility, because that's just what works for us. But we at least have an idea and tentative plan for that week ahead. Tackling this together and not individually gives ease of both of our minds. Now, Chase will always still ask me what my plans are for the day, because he doesn't always remember or hasn't looked at the calendar. But I am more than happy, because we've already set the baseline to address these things with him. And I have that grace. I have that understanding, he might not take planning as seriously as I do, or it might not bring him as much peace per se, but we've already talked about this. I'm at peace about it. So I'm just going to tell him what I'm up to for today. Another cool resource that I have found is called Beating 50%. It's a ministry led by Jeremy and Audrey Roloff, and they really are huge inspirations to me, because they go on marriage retreats. They take once-a-year trips, just the two of them, where they go and they pray over their family and over the year and just plan out the year. A lot of times we get frustrated because we want to go on vacations, we want to save up for houses, we want to get the new car, and we don't create a plan for how to do that. And so we sit in this limbo of, we know we want these things, but we don't actually know how we're going to achieve them. And then there's this unfulfillment. This disappointment that sets in. And so setting aside this time and being mindful with your spouse and setting aside this time to retreat and just have a weekend where you can just go pray and worship and plan your year will allow you to accomplish those things like family vacations, a vacation together, things you want to buy, house projects you want to get done. You can just get on the same page. You can let God speak to you guys and what he's trying to show you for the year. So those are just some really cool things. They actually have a podcast episode on it. I don't think I'll be able to link it below, but their podcast is called Behind the Scenes, and they just share so much good content about marriage and planning together and dreaming together. And they've definitely inspired Chase and I to do very similar things. So I think that's all I'm going to share in today's episode because I need to save some fun stuff for when Chase does decide he's ready to hop on the podcast. But I hope you enjoyed this conversation. And if you're looking for more encouragement and lifestyle and everything in between, you can head to my website, BayleeLetters.com, or to my Instagram at @BayleeandBeyond. And until next time, my friends.